Okay, so if we haven't met, I'm Millie. I'm a founder, creator, and a hardcore generalist. I'm from New Zealand, but I live on this little island in Scotland. Outside of my window is mountains covered in snow right now. And I run a little company called Generalist World. So we are a career network for people who have non-traditional squiggly careers. And I'm assuming that is some of you on this call if you have found us. And I want to start this session by telling you something kind of a wild story. It was in November of last year, and I was looking at my student loan and I was seeing all of the interest that I was going to have to pay over the next 5 years. I don't know if anyone else has been in that position, and you start to do the math and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is a bit of a racket, really. And I was very fortunate to then land a pretty fantastic sponsor for my newsletter. And I decided I would make the promise or perhaps the gift to myself to actually just use that money to just pay off the student loan in full and scrap all of the interest payments. And it was a real privilege to be able to do that. And I wanted to share that story as an opener because I know that many people here will be coming here for lots of different reasons. Some of you are wanting to start a newsletter for impact. Some of you might be wanting to start a newsletter to make money. And so I wanted to show you that amazing things and really tangible things can be possible. So let me. Okay, so this is what we're going to be covered today. We are going to be hyper focused on distribution. So, what does distribution mean? It ultimately means how do we get more people subscribing to your newsletter, reading your newsletter, sharing your newsletter, or said in another way, how do we get more of the right people finding you and finding value from your thoughts, your experience, your expertise? And at this point, I would love to get Ryan up on the stage. Ryan is one of our friends from beehiiv. He is going to be here to answer your most intimidating and technical questions. I'll take all the fun ones. We'll handball the really hardcore technical ones over to Ryan. And I would love to, Ryan, would you just share a little snippet of how you ended up on this call?
Yeah, of course. Hi everyone, I'm Ryan. I joined Beehive a little bit over a year ago, but I've been in the newsletter and like small media space for 6 years now. Started a newsletter, born out of COVID really, and then a few years in sold that to a different email company where I joined as their first employee and head of content. After 2 years, I left and bought that newsletter back and moved it to Beehive where I loved the platform so much I actually ended up joining to work here full time as well. So still running my newsletter and now get to do fun things like this.
Epic. So Ryan is an OG of newsletters. We're very lucky to have him with us. So don't be shy. Drop all the questions that you could possibly have in the comments because it's not every day that we get direct access to someone with this experience. Okay, let's get into it. I want to give a very short nod to our last session because I know not everyone would have been there. And no stress, don't worry at all if you weren't there. But this is kind of the golden foundation, the golden thread that we took away from that session. So I also want to give a nod to the OGs who created the Jobs to be Done framework. You might be familiar. And we're going to put our own little spin on it. So I want you to think of your newsletter not just as an email that arrives and, you really hope people will open again and again, but I want you to think of it as your readers are hiring you to do something. They are hiring you to do a job for them. And that might be to save them money, it might be to save them energy, it might be to help them connect with others. There is a job to be done. So, for example, the Generalist World newsletter actually has two jobs. One of them is to provide job opportunities. We do that every Tuesday. We send out a newsletter that hand curates about 50 different jobs and we send it out to folks. It's all free. This saves people a lot of time. It helps them in their job search. That is a job to be done. It's valuable. So your job will look likely different to my job. And it's okay if you don't know what it is yet, but I just want to plant this in your mind. When you're thinking about, what might my newsletter theme be? This is a really helpful way to frame it. Now, the next thing I want to do is bust a myth. I want to bust a myth. And that myth is something that I hear often, and that is people say, oh, there's too many newsletters and it's oversaturated, and no one will read mine because there's already too many. And to that, I would like to say, have you been to a bookstore recently? Because if you have, you might notice that there is a heck of a lot of books, and you might notice that every day, every week, every year, there are more books being published. And you don't hear authors saying, oh, I'm not going to publish my bestseller, this book that I've been sitting on for a decade with all of my knowledge and expertise, because there's too many books in the bookstore. Of course not. Just like books, this is an ever expanding space. And if you are creating something of substance, if you are creating, if your readers are hiring you to do this job, of course it's not going to be overly saturated. So I just want to kind of tackle that objection up front. Okay, so there are a lot of ways that we could think about distribution. And we're going to get into some very specific examples. But to make it really simple, to make it nice and tangible, I wanted to reverse engineer three of the big ways. The first one is a lead magnet, which, if I'm honest, I really dislike that word. I prefer to think of it as a value exchange. So, what is something of keyword high quality value that you can give to someone and they can say, oh man, that's really helpful. Thank you. Here's my email in exchange. The next is shareability. So, the creme de la creme of newsletters is having people share them for you. And one of the prompts I would encourage you to ask yourself is, in what ways does this make my reader look good? Is it if they share it, they're going to look really smart? If they share it, are they going to look like they're in the loop or high status? Or are they going to look really helpful to their peers? This is why people share things. If you really want people to share, you need to understand the psychology of why people share things. And the last one, which I honestly think is quite overlooked, is collaboration. So look around you. Look around your networks, your communities, your colleagues, your friends. Who can you partner up with? Who can you team up with? Who can you get in a circle, get in a network, get in a mastermind and say, hey, I really want to grow this thing. I want to help you grow your thing too. Let's do it together. This is a very wordy slide, but I promise it is important. You might like to screenshot it and save it for later. Because much like building a company, you know that old adage where it's like, build it and they will come is mostly BS. It's kind of the same with newsletters. You have to build it and distribute it, and then they will come. And so I have thought through around 8 different ways. I think it's nine in the end if we include begging, which is kind of a joke, but also kind of serious. And these are 8 ways that you can be more specifically think about distribution. Some of them you will look at and you will be like, no, Millie, that's not my vibe. Great. Don't do it. Fantastic. Some of them you will look at and you'll say, ah, I think I could eventually land on a rhythm of doing one, two, or three of these. And so we're about to break into an activity. My screen is probably going to absolutely implode. But let's see if I can just put 2 minutes on the timer. I will come back to the screen, don't worry. And what I want you to do is when I go back to the screen, see what the different distribution levers are and rate them. You can do it on a pen and paper, you can do it in the chat, and rate them from 0, you're like, ugh, no, thank you. Or 10, heck yeah, I'd be really confident about that. Which of the ones feel most doable for you? So we're going to pop 2 minutes on the timer and hopefully you can see. Feel free to drop in the chat the ones that you're feeling really excited about, the ones that you're like, absolutely not. Let's see what the general vibe is. Ambient music fades out. Thank you, YouTube. And thank you, folks, for sharing in the chat. 4 and 5 seem like they'd be really high impact. Most doable for me is 2. Bear has me screaming. I mean, it works, you know? Awesome. So hopefully, everyone, this gave you some ideas, some jumping off points, and we can spend a little bit more time on this down the track. But for now, I actually want to do something that I have never done before. I'm scared. I'm going to show you a quite literal behind the scenes of the GW newsletter. Can you see this platform? Awesome. Okay. Now, what I wanted to show you, there's a few things. Let me just make sure my list is here so we don't miss anything. Okay. The first is this. I think it's really easy to look and say, oh, 46,000 subscribers, like that's nice for you. That's cool, but like I've only got 10 subscribers. I just wanted to show you the progression and look how flat this is for actually a really long time. I was cackling at whoever this was, probably my husband, February 3 years ago exactly. And what I want to really point out from this is that things compound. So you can see it was really around, I think it was in like May of last year, we added like 20,000 subscribers in about 4 months. And that only happens after 2.5 years of very few people, relatively, uh, subscribing. So that's the first thing. Good things take time. And I don't feel discouraged at all if you're like, this is taking a long time. I think the success stories of like 0 to 100,000 are very rare, if real at all. The second thing I wanted to show you was around the growth levers. So this is our quiz. So that is nearly 25,000 people of the 45,000 have come from one single distribution channel, one single lever that has been a lead magnet, or as I call it, a value exchange, which I wonder, has anyone here done the generalist quiz? Drop in the comments. If drop your archetype in the comments if you have done the quiz. And I say this because you would laugh at how many other experiments we have done that didn't work or didn't see the light of day. And when you find the one that works, double down, double down, double down. Okay, now, and if this is your first time seeing the Beehive platform, welcome. So, because this is about distribution, hopefully my screen will load. I wanted to show you a few ways that Beehive helps you grow and has helped us grow essentially on autopilot. And I don't like making those claims because they sound fake. But this actually is like when I came into it, I was like, oh, wow, that's amazing. So there's essentially this Beehive network where other newsletters can recommend you and you can recommend other people. And by the way, Ryan, jump in at any point here because you will probably be able to explain things more technically than me. And if you have questions, Edger, feel free to bring people up at this point as well. So you can see that these are the four recommendations the four publications that we are recommending. And when you click through to here, you can see who is recommending us. And so that is nearly 700 subscribers thanks to the people who have done it, without us doing anything. So this is if you are to use Beehive, I'd highly recommend finding your top four, finding four other friends and creators in the space and recommending them because it's a fantastic, very easy, low lift way to grow. Okay, the next one is boosts, which I almost hesitate to talk about because this is so autopilot that I don't even really know how it works. All I know is that somehow I get this balance in my Beehive account. I have this ongoing campaign that is set at $1.50. And essentially, this is like paid growth. And as you can see, I have not put my strategy hat on here. I'm just like, oh, if there's some extra balance in the Beehive account and people want to recommend us, sure, here's $1.50. Thank you for every person they recommend. And Brian, do you just want to speak to how the verified subscribers work? Because that's a really important key part of this.
Yeah, so it's really important to note that for this, like just like the recommendations, you can basically opt to pay for subscribers as well, growing off of great other publications that aren't yours. So like if I know Millie has a great publication, I can apply to basically grow when she grows by paying her like she has like $1.50 per subscriber. And so the verified part is I get to select my audience. Maybe I want it to be from a certain country or a certain language spoken. And then we also do checks to make sure that they're not bots and actually opening the emails. So when you're setting this up, you get to select basically like how strict you want to be with the timeline. But I think it can be up to like 2 weeks where we basically scan to see are they opening emails after they get the recommendation. And then if they don't, you don't ever pay for them. So you truly are only paying for real human verified subscribers off the back of other publications' growth. So it's a really great growth lever that you could be funneling money into like meta ads, for example, but you don't know how those people are going to convert. You're paying basically for a cost per lead. They might not even subscribe. And if they do
Mhm.
subscribe, do they even know what a newsletter is and are they even used to that format? So with this, you truly are getting newsletter readers who are already reading other publications on Beehive and are very familiar with the cadence and everything that happens here.
Amazing. Eja, are the questions in the chat all okay? I can't keep track.
There are two questions I think would be good for Ryan as well. One is, what plan level are these options available?
That is a great question. Great question. I think that starts at the scale level. So like the first paid tier. I can double check that in a second though. And I'll put that in the chat. Beehive is a form of a CRM. Yeah, you can basically do your, blog content and newsletter content all in the same place, which I'm sure we're going to get to in just a little bit here. But yeah, you can basically publish something once and have it go as a web post and as an email or either or. You get to basically choose. Um, how do you pay for your subscribers or force to subscribe to your publication? This is just an option. You don't even need to do that. So you can grow 100% organically, or if you are doing this, you would basically either use like maybe the Beehive ad network or something, get some money in your Beehive wallet, and then you can basically just redistribute that towards the Boost network to grow off of that, or you can hook it up to Stripe and pay that way. Um, Free level two. Yeah, for recommendations, yeah, that's and the recommendation network just as a whole is free. And when you're seeing people post like screenshots of things of like Substack recommendation network, this is basically the exact same thing within the Beehive ad net or within the Beehive publisher network. Um, let's see. So you don't have to pay for these subscribers at all. As like Millie showed with her breakdown below,
hmm
I mean like 99% of her subscribers are coming from free organic sources.
So glad you're here, Ryan. This is fantastic. Great, great tag teaming. Guys, please keep asking him questions. He has to duck
Um,
10 minutes before the end of the call, so you got to get him while he's here.
Millie, maybe you might want to kind of clarify on the paid one because there's like another one is like, what is the payment is for it? I mean, it is, yeah, it is basically an ad on other newsletters, right?
Yeah. So basically, with like the recommendation side, right? If you sign up for, and this is completely opt-in, like Millie doesn't have to use this, I don't have to use this. But for people that do, if someone signs up for my newsletter, for example, there's going to be a little pop-up that shows up saying, like, hey, if you like my newsletter, you might also like these four others that I'm recommending. Maybe they're my friends, someone that I just know really well. Fun fact for two of mine, they're actually my own other newsletters. So when I grow one of them, I get to grow the other two off the back of my other one. Very nice little hack. Um, and yeah, it's completely optional. So then with the four recommendations that you have, you can also add on two that people are willing to pay for slots on that. So, um, and yeah, it's completely optional again. And so like if Millie wants to make a little bit of extra money, she can not only recommend four people, but also recommend two others that they're willing to pay for placements, knowing that she's growing, knowing who her audience is, and all that.
So for
Uh,
anyone who answered that they were really into the collaborations, this is your jam. This is the vibe.
Yeah, and exactly like the cost per acquisition. So Millie's paying 150 to gain a real subscriber, whereas sometimes on like Meta, like Facebook ads, Instagram, you name it, you might be paying like $3 or $4 for like a cost per lead, and you don't even really know if they're actually going to be signing up. They're just like clicking to your landing page. This is for an actual subscriber who's gone through, added their email. You're able to email them. Let me see. I'll come back to the Beehive or Substack. Understand the Beehive. Yeah, with beehiiv, you can build a full website, landing pages, you name it. It can be a completely custom website, and they don't look identical to each other. So on Substack, that's a big advantage of beehiiv over Substack. Every Substack looks the exact same. That's by design from Substack side of things. Beehiiv, it's truly your own brand, your own website. We don't really even necessarily want you saying like, "Hey, this is my beehiiv." It's just like this is your website, this is your thing. Yeah, like Millie's website here is great, and this does not look like anything else on the platform. It's very nice. It doesn't look like another Substack. So that's a big advantage. Also, if you're doing paid subscriptions, Substack takes 10% off the top. That's the Substack tax, essentially. That adds up to a lot of money as you're adding more and more paid subscriptions. We take 0% cut, never will take a cut of that. If you're selling digital products, like if you're familiar with Gumroad, for example, maybe you're selling PDFs or consulting or coaching, those products also take 10% off the top. We take 0%. Basically, we charge one SaaS fee at the start, and that's how we make our money. It's a really, basic model for us where we allow you, the creator, to take 100% of your income home then without us taking anything.
Yeah,
How
and
do you
for
guys
con
different
for
kits?
context, just on that digital product, Ryan, you can see in the last 4 weeks I've made $591.54. That is off this digital product, which was our positioning guidebook. So if you have knowledge, if you have expertise, if you can package that into something that other people find valuable, we're selling this for $50. You can sell it for whatever price you want. And as Ryan said, that is just cash in your pocket. They don't take any fees, which is very nice.
Yeah. And the nice thing about that, you spent a lot of time to get that ready up front, but then going forward, you don't have to like keep creating off of that. That digital product is there for as long as you want it to be, and people can keep purchasing it time and time again.
Exactly.
How is beehiiv different than Kit? We have, I guess there's similarities with any one of these, ESPs for sure. Um, but yeah, we allow more customization from like the website side of things for sure. We have the built-in Boost recommendation network that we just talked about there. They use a third party to do all of that with less, I guess, guardrails attached to it, I would say. Um, and yeah, I guess that would be the biggest thing. We're also not as expensive as Kit. Uh, is that a promise around the zero fees? Yeah, that's a promise.
And we're recording it, so receipts. I believe Stripe isn't available in QI. I'm not sure on that. I also know Stripe isn't available potentially in India. I can't really speak to that.
Yeah, I'm not positive around that either. But I can see if we have any other options around that, or if Stripe is like super strict in that, I can take a look.
Awesome. Um, any other questions while I'm in here, particularly if you've never seen a kind of a setup platform? Um, you can see our posts. I won't go in there because you'll see our audience's email addresses, which we don't want to do. Um, the other thing I wanted to show you actually, which is not something I've set up, but if you were one of the people who commented that you wanted a referral program, you can also do that in here organically, natively within Beehive. So if that feels like your vibe, and we've seen really like Morning Brew, right? That's like how they grew to literally millions of subscribers. And so if you're into the referral, you can also do that organically within Beehive. All right. Any other burning questions? Edger, how much
Um,
does it take? Sorry. Yeah, you
yeah, I
can
was
ask.
just gonna say I don't see any other questions, but then there.
Ah, Ivan, I'm so glad to hear that it is insightful. Mila, I can speak a little bit to the how much does it take to produce content on a weekly basis? And the short answer is that's really changed over time. Just want to check, am I frozen or is Edger frozen? Edger's frozen. Okay, good. I'm on the island, so I always assume it's me. But fantastic. So, how long does it take on a weekly basis? If you'd asked me this question 3 years ago, and Edger will vouch for this, we were so messy because we didn't really know what we were publishing. We were experimenting. It would take me 3 months to write an essay, and then so there was not really a system. But then we landed on the two formats that worked, and this would be my advice. Land on the formats that work. They will require some experimenting to get there, and then create the system so that every week it's almost like a template that you're filling in. Um, I can at least say that's worked really well for us. I would say we actually have Mildred, shout out, not sure if she's here on the call, but Mildred runs all of our newsletter content now. So any emails you receive from GW are coming from Mildred. And would that take her maybe like half a day, Edger, do you think?
I mean, it's hard to. It is a whole. It is all. It is our whole business. Obviously, it takes sometimes longer, sometimes, but
Yeah. The
um,
actual writing, right? Because like so much of my time is curating the roles. Like I spend so much time looking for the
yeah.
amazing generalist roles. So it is kind of hard to quantify the
But
research
I
plus
guess,
the
yeah,
writing.
I guess the actual writing, because once we get it, we can have templates and we duplicate the templates, so it's getting easier and easier each time.
I love this question from Hiba. Hiba? Sorry if I'm not saying your name correct. Ryan, do you have any take on that? Is security built into the platform about GDPR?
Yep, and then you can also add like little check boxes for different things in privacy settings, totally optional to you as well. There's also double opt-in, optional to you. Yeah. And then there's
Beautiful.
also the question from Emily that I think would be interesting for both of us probably. At what point did you start reaching out to sponsors and partners? Was there a specific subscriber count or engagement threshold that you hit first? So my newsletter is 100% monetized through private ad sales. I do have like 13 paid subscriptions. That's really just so I can speak to it as like someone at beehiiv. Like I don't actually promote it. It's just there. I sell my ad packages on a monthly basis now, but when I first started, it was like week to week. And I started at a point when I think I was at like 2,000 subscribers. So not that many in the grand scheme of things, but and for context, I'm at 20,000 now. So again, it's not like anything crazy. Um, but it got to the point where people were reaching out to me. So like it was more of like a pull versus push. And then I waited even a little bit longer so that I knew I wouldn't have gaps. My entire thinking, this could be right, this could be wrong, was that when I start taking sponsors, I don't want there to be a gap and I want sponsors to think like, okay, this is a hot commodity. Like there's a reason that this is
Mhm.
like booked forever. So then I even artificially priced it a little bit lower than I could have to keep sponsors coming back and to make sure that I was booked forever. And so I was sold out for a year plus, and then I sold the newsletter where we took ads off. And then I've been sold out again ever since. And again, part of that is like keeping prices, a little bit lower than I probably could charge. But then also just waiting until the point when, yeah, sponsors were basically asking me, like, how can I get in front of this audience?
Epic. And I have a slightly different take on this. It is in a later slide, but I can cover it now because it makes sense. I waited a really long time. I had this completely made up figure in my head that we weren't really going to take on sponsorships until we got to 20,000. Edger can vouch for this. It was like this goal that we just made up a number. We're like 20,000, that's a number. And so as you saw in my graph, that took us a really long time to get to 20,000. However, I'm really glad that we did it that way. For us personally, I'm really glad because it meant that we could keep Generalist World, I guess, like ad free and totally value packed, where everything was focused on generalism, on exactly what our people needed. And then when I had some leverage, as in 20,000 subscribers, it's chunky. It's like, oh, people want to get in front. I then approached the brands that I really cared about, and my kind of litmus test for that is, have I been a loyal paying customer for many years? Yes. Okay. Well, then they're kind of my dream brand to work with because obviously I love them and I find them genuinely useful. And so that's how I've been able to land partnerships with beehiiv themselves, with Gamma, with Zapier, with Lovable, with Notion. They were kind of our sponsors. We've got, you're welcome, Emily. Can we set it up for various compliance laws, Ryan?
Sorry, yeah, I'm still reading that. Can we set up for various compliance raw? Um, Great question. I'm not positive. I do know that we have people publishing from literally every country right now. But yeah, I don't want to like speak out of turn for like our kind of lawyer side of things here. But we do have publishers in every country. So I do think we're handling that in some way.
And Hyder, on the how do you determine what to charge? I mean, I could do probably a whole nother workshop on that because it's like it's a black box. No one tells you how to price these things. Ryan, do you have any top tips on how you've thought about it?
Mine was just like a really weird personal thing was like it got to the point where early on when people were offering to sponsor it, if I felt like the number would be too low, I just didn't want to do it. It had to be worth it for my time to be like, okay, we're gonna go back and forth on copy, then I have to put it in the newsletter, and then you're gonna ask for like click data. And it's just like, is it worth my
Hmm.
time?
Hmm.
So that was really part of it. And then it still is kind of to that point. So like I'm working with like, brands on a monthly basis, and there's some that I don't exactly want to work with going forward again, just because like the back and forth is much more than like other brands. And so you kind of have to like weigh the pros and cons of what work is going into it with each brand and each deal. And if you're doing flat rates across for everyone, that's harder to kind of balance.
Mm, perfectly said, in fact. I think at the beginning, particularly, it is a bit of a art and a science of like, well, what are you happy with? And what are you happy with? And also, don't like undersell that you have built a really valuable asset. So just because it's something that you really love and find fun and enjoyable, like make sure you are pricing it at a point where you are getting paid for your work. Yes, that could be an entire workshop. Can you share how you read the insights, analytics, and double down on what works? I'm assuming this is in regards to the quiz. And do you think, Eja?
Yeah, I think more like the tactics that you shared in the early exercise.
Yeah, perfect. It was obvious. The quiz was like being caught in a wave that it was almost too big to swim in. So you didn't even have to look too hard at the data. People, lots and lots and lots and lots of people were taking the quiz, lots of people were finding value. I remember distinctly in the first week or so of it happening, someone messaged me and said, "Oh, I used the language from the quiz and I just got like a job or I just got promoted, one of the two." And I remember thinking, okay, this is really like really genuinely helping people. So it was obvious. And I think sometimes that is the best answer. You'll feel it, you'll see it. Okay, let's keep going. Can you see my cringy screen? Yes, excellent. Okay, so this is probably the biggest reason I hear why people don't want to focus on distribution, why they're like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. It is cringe. And so raise your hand. This is a safe place. You can put in the chat if promoting your work feels cringy. If you have felt that internal cringe when it comes to promoting your work. Oh boy, we got some hands. You are not alone. You are not alone. And I would like to do another entire session on moving past the cringe. But for today, my goal is just to have us start somewhere. So I think the first part of getting through the cringe is acknowledging the cringe. And when you feel that cringe creeping up from inside your belly and you're like, this is dead awful. I hate this. I want to hide under a table. When you feel that creeping up from your belly, know that this is the tax that you're paying for growing outside of your comfort zone. That is that feeling of cringe. It's like, oh, my skin feels a little bit bigger than it is. And if you feel it, this is the hard part. Instead of pushing it away, I would invite you to say, congratulations, me. I am pushing myself out of my boundaries, out of my comfort zone. I am putting myself out there, and that's a really hard thing to do. So then once you've accepted it, what you need to do is just repeat it. I know that's easy. You're like, Millie, easily said than done. I know it feels scary, but the more you're posting, the more you're publishing, the more you're commenting, the more you are pulling those levers that we identified earlier, I promise you, it just gets easier. If you do it 50 times, it suddenly doesn't feel as cringy. And the final step to cringe, if you can get over that cringe mountain, you can climb it. It is actually so liberating to not care if people think you are cringe, because at the end of the day, it's your life. And one day you are going to be on your deathbed, and are you going to be thinking back to that person who commented on LinkedIn and was like, oh, look at you putting yourself out there? Who cares? You're taking a chance, you're sharing your knowledge. Of course, you're not going to care in the big scheme of things. So know that you're not alone. Accept that putting yourself out of your comfort zone can feel cringy and feel the fear and do it anyway. And my last word on this is if you're publishing, often when you are feeling that cringe, it's because you're publishing something that isn't you. You're not actually being authentic. It's like, oh God, that's cringe. And it's like, yeah, it's cringe because it's not how you talk or it's not what you believe. It's perhaps you're squeezing yourself into a box that actually doesn't fit you. Generalist 101, that is what we're trying to break out of. So if you can lean more into being yourself, cringe cannot touch you. Okay, we're coming up. We got 15 minutes left, and I want to pause for a second. This has been pretty full on. And I want to pause and I want to take 2 minutes on this slide and I want you to reflect where you are in this newsletter, in this publishing journey. I want you to think, what have you tried before? What have you tried and it just did not work? What have you tried and it felt easy? What feels impossible? And if you are comfortable, as we have been doing the whole session, feel free to share it in the chat. Because I think often when we're on these creative publishing media company journeys, it can feel like we're the only one going through the motions. But hopefully, this workshop has given you lots of practical tools. But I also want it to be a space where you can start to meet others who are also on the ride as well. So I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock. Feel free to be as open and honest as you are comfortable with and you might find you're not alone. See you in 2 minutes. Final 5 seconds to enjoy the ambient music, the cheesy ambient music from YouTube. Thank you, YouTube. And thank you all for sharing. I managed to actually pull up the chat. And there's one point, or there's a few points I'd love to get into. One was from, oh gosh, there's a lot now. Let me find it. Oh no, there's so many, which is not an oh no, but it's a good thing. Where is it? It was basically saying here, it's from Astrid. And Astrid, thank you so much for naming this. I can see that other people relate to it. Astrid said, I find it less about cringe, it's about the fear or uncertainty that others will criticize on details or nuance that we cannot add to every email. Really important. And I think the first thing, again, I'm a big fan of acknowledging and naming it that you're not going to be able to add every detail and every nuance to every single email. And I think the way you get around this is publicly saying that. So you can say, the more you can make it human and be like, I'm Astrid and I'm going to do my darndest to make this a really comprehensive, thoughtful edition. And of course, I'm not going to be able to include every single thing. And I would welcome that feedback. And simply you could have that as a little like caption at the top, reminds people that you're not some like faceless publication on the internet, like you're a human sharing their thoughts. And so I might encourage you to leave a little note like that. Let's see, is there any kind of threads you can see, Edger, that we could speak to?
There is a couple of questions about like finding what to write about, and what I was recommending is to going to our YouTube channel to watch the recording of the session you hosted in December, because it was mostly about finding your unique angle and like what to write about. And there is one question from Paige on how to convert people who have shown enough interest to subscribe to upgrade into paid subscribers.
Ooh, Ryan, you want to take that on your final? You can any
Yeah,
thoughts?
I can try. Yeah, I have 10 minutes left. So what we do see is if you have like a highly engaged free readership, right, you can expect to convert like 3 to 5% to paid if it's positioned correctly. And so what does that mean? Giving them whether it's like premium content or something like that, like probably not just having it as like a buy me a coffee slash supporter type tier. You probably have to go a little bit above and beyond that. Um, but yeah, 3 to 5% is like a fair number to start looking at. 5% obviously is on the higher end. Let me see. Shown enough interest to upgrade. Yeah, so I think there's a few ways that you can do this though, like automatically. So within beehiiv, we have automations. I would honestly set up like an automation that is after maybe a month or two when a certain reader has opened X amount of emails, like they're already engaged, they're clicking on things, you know that they've been around for a while. You can then set up an email that's something about like maybe your greatest hits or something of like, hey, you're new here. This is like what I've done over the last year. This is what people love. Testimonials from people who are on a paid plan or in a community, things like that. And then you set it up once, and it's going to be automatically triggered based off of people hitting a criteria that is showing that they're already engaged. I think would be a good time to do it versus just like randomly sending an email to everyone every once in a while, like that will still convert, but this is more of like a targeted approach. And then, yeah, I mean, if you're sending weekly, maybe, after 2 months, if they've opened 50% of the emails, so they've opened four of your first eight, something like that, I think feels fair with like a click, with some click data behind them. Is probably what I would do. And then
Nailed it.
just on the beehiiv side of things, I work with a ton of journalists who are operating, I guess you could call it like weekly or daily newsletters that are mostly free content, like call it half and half. Half is free, half is paywalled, where you get just enough meat in the actual like free newsletter where you're not gonna like unsubscribe because you didn't get enough. But they all have like lead-ins to gated content that like if you really, really want more about that topic, you can keep reading. Um, and if you're doing that daily, you basically have, five chances a week if you're doing it just during the weekdays to convert people to paid with like, here's some great free content. And then every time it's just like, here's a little bit more. Do you want it? And over time, people will just eventually kind of take out their wallets. I do think it's uh, kind of important to like think about pricing a little bit because I think people like are paying for newsletters out of their same like discretionary income as like a Netflix subscription, for example. So I think it comes out of like that same entertainment bucket. So with that said, I think that you can probably charge a little bit more than what you think. I've seen that with a lot of publishers are, maybe they start at like $5 and they quickly realize they could actually be charging $12 a month and there's zero drop off in terms of conversions. But that's something that you can easily experiment with in beehiiv. And if you have people on a lower tier, you can just grandfather them in. You don't need to like increase their prices. You can if you want. But yeah, all up to you.
Nailed it. Thanks, Ryan. All right, 8 minutes on the clock. Also, guys, did you not hear the ambient music? Was it not playing? And I'm just like flowing to the ambience. That's hilarious. Okay, note for next time. Well, I hope you enjoyed the silence. There's also beauty in that. Now, hilariously, I cannot believe this is not spoken about more often because we talk a lot about distribution, we talk a lot about getting subscribers, and do you know one of the best ways to grow your email list is to also not lose those subscribers? Now, the caveat here is that you will lose subscribers. That is inevitable. It is not a stressful thing to worry about. It feels it at the beginning. I remember people unsubscribing at the beginning and it feeling like a personal defeat. You very quickly get over that. We might lose 70, 80, 90 subscribers every time we send an email. That is not a negative thing. In fact, it's a healthy signal of your list. It means the people who are on there really want to be on there. However, when I say that no one talks about how important retention is, it's like if you are busting your butt for the next 6 months to create this amazing content, to create something of value, to create this product that people hire your newsletter to do, and then for whatever reason, the quality falls off, or you fall inconsistent, or you drop off and people lose you, it's like, oh gosh, I did all that work and what was the point? So I say this as an invitation just to keep it front and center of your mind that yes, it's really important to grow your newsletter, but gosh, it's really important to also keep the people that you already have happy and keep connected to them. Keep particularly the early ones who made the newsletter possible at all. And a few kind of tactical, tangible ways that you can do this. One is ask them, literally have a PS at the bottom of your newsletter and say, hey, I'd love to talk to 10 people in the next week who read my newsletter. Here's my Calendly link. Jump on a call with them, get to know them, ask them what's working. Why did they hire you to create this newsletter? You can also do this with surveys and polls, which are both inbuilt native features within beehiiv. So just keep it in your mind. Retention, it really matters. And we are coming to the end of the session. And by now, you should have an idea of how to reverse engineer a successful newsletter. You should know the secret to distributing without the cringe, why you should focus on retaining, and hopefully you got an insight into the behind the scenes of beehiiv. And feel free to screenshot this for later. But the two I kind of want to draw your attention to. The first one I've touched on, and that is around find the growth strategy that does 80%, brings in 80% of the effectiveness, um, and double down on that. So for us, that was the quiz. And the last one is actually number 6, which is have fun with it. And I think it's really important to name this early on in your journey because these things often take time. And if you're miserable doing it, or if you're not enjoying what you're writing about, or you're not enjoying the audience that you're serving, it's going to be really hard to do that over a long period. So, like anything, the more you can have fun with it over the long term, the more successful it is likely to be. beehiiv has very kindly given us a code. It is Millie30, and you will get 30% off your first 3 months, and you'll be dancing like these not chickens. It's late. It's not. It's 7 p.m. But for me, this is late. Dancing like these kittens outside Sephora. And if there is any burning questions, let's get to them before we get to the very exciting challenge of the day that I know everyone is just like dying for, waiting for. Edja, anything from your side? Any burning questions?
I didn't see any questions on the chat yet, but I have the LinkedIn post ready.
That is it. Okay. So there are two things that I would encourage you to do, that I would invite you to do. Totally up to you if you feel comfortable. The first one is sometimes the hardest bit of telling the world that you have a newsletter is t telling the world you have a newsletter. It's that first getting over the hurdle of saying, this is what I'm thinking about, this is what I want to do. So if you do feel at any point the urge, the desire to declare that you are working on a newsletter in 2026, welcome feedback, hear what your people want, tag me, tag beehiiv, and we will help amplify you. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you want to connect with everyone here, of course you do. Edja is going to drop a little link to the LinkedIn post. Go and comment on it, and then you'll be able to see everyone that was on this call. And I know there's already been people being like, maybe we should collaborate. That is the vibe of this space. So do more of that. And Ryan will hopefully be showing up in the comments as well if you have any extra questions. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you for participating. Thank you for being vulnerable and honest. And I'm rooting for you, as always.